Hey, you lovely students. I'm here to talk to you about the project for 112, and we're going to be looking at part 3. So I want to show you guys a little bit about editing on your, what's it called? I'm trying to use my brain, but I'm doing two things at once, and then you should never do that because you just scientifically can't. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how to format and then what information to be putting on each of your slides. So if you go to your project, then you need to click on this right here. This is where you're going to be making your own slideshow. I made a slideshow that is short. It's only 3 slides long, but it's just an example. So if you want to open that as well, it is right here. Okay, I formatted mine differently. You are welcome to use the formatting that's already here. You only need to change the background and the fonts and stuff if you want to. And I would not do that until you do all the hard parts. Save the fun part for last. The part that is not really for a grade, save that for last, okay? I'm not going to grade if you change the format at all. I like formats being different, so I did change mine because that's the kind of personality I have. I'm an overachieving student, so I would definitely not just get an A. I would be like, what can I do to get an A+? So here's the information that's going to be required on each of your slides. Of course, on the front page, you need a title, and you cannot just call it your title. You need to write a title here. You need to put your name, and then you also need to put the date that you are working on this. And then on each of your slides, except for your last slide, which I'll actually have you guys add in a second, you're going to put the common name of your organism. So with a Roadrunner, I could put Roadrunner, or I can't even remember what else it was. Something that made me laugh, but I don't remember. I never call it that. I need to put the scientific name here, so I found that on that website where I identified the Roadrunner. The role in the nutrient cycle. So I'm going to go back to the directions for a second because this is important. Here they are. You cannot just put what it eats. I don't want you to put what it eats. You're going to make a food web, and that's where you're going to include that information. But for this part, I want you to identify what type of consumer or producer it is. So primary producers, again, are like plants. Those ones are going to be making the energy. They basically turn the sunshine into food for us using carbon dioxide and water and sunlight energy. Primary consumers are going to be the ones that are eating primary producers. So those are going to be our herbivores. Hold on, let me let my Roomba pass by. Okay, I'm back. So primary consumers are going to be eating the plants. They're going to be eating the producers. Primary means first, so you don't have to say primary producer. You can just say producer, just so you know. Sometimes they do that in standardized tests. They won't say primary producer. They'll just call it a producer. And then students can get confused sometimes because they're like primary consumer. Well, that means the first consumer. So it's not producing anything. It's the first one to be eating in the food chain. And so those are going to be eating the plants. We would call those the herbivores. There's secondary consumers, which can be omnivores and carnivores. So I'm thinking a lot of birds will eat bugs and seeds. So that makes them both a primary consumer because they're eating plants and a secondary consumer because they're eating other consumers, but that also makes them omnivores. And then there's tertiary consumers, which are always carnivores, and that would be like something at the very, very top of the food chain. So something like a hawk or an owl. They only ever eat carnivores. They eat other carnivores and other herbivores. Okay, and omnivores too. Decomposer is the last group you can put them in. Decomposers break stuff down. So my centipede would be considered a decomposer. Centipedes break stuff down and put it back into the soil so that it can be taken up by plants as nutrients and then turned back into a plant, and then it gets eaten. So that's where the end of the cycle is. It's like getting everything back to the plants is the decomposer. Okay, you also need to find the scientific names and type them in the correct form. So the correct form for the scientific name is the genus and then the species. And so the most likely experience you have with this is Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens is not plural. It's singular or plural, actually. So we can say all Homo sapiens, or you can say I am a Homo sapiens, and those are actually both correct. And they need to be in italic. So here, notice, ooh, I made a mistake. This one I need to capitalize. So Allium cepa is a type of onion, and you put the first letter as capitalized, like right here in genus, and then the second name, you leave it all lowercase. Puma concolor, that is a mountain lion. So you need to put the species name. If you find some bugs, you won't be able to find the species name. So you just want to put whatever information they're giving you on taxonomy. And if you come across that, let me know and I will help you write the right thing, because there is a lot of dependencies when it comes to the insects because there's so many different species and subspecies of them. Okay, find out if the organism is native or if it's invasive. So what this means is that endemic organisms evolved here. They've lived here forever. They are perfectly fit for this desert. Or if the thing is not evolved here, let's say it was brought from somewhere else, like rats. I think rats are native to Europe somewhere, but now you can find rats everywhere in the whole entire world. And they are an invasive species everywhere else except for Europe. And they're actually pretty disruptive. So some invasive species don't really cause too much harm. Other ones can like really decimate populations. In Florida, a whole bunch of people were letting their boa constrictors free. And so now there's a whole bunch of snakes that are going around eating all of the native wildlife, and they're actually endangering a lot of critters that lived there forever. But they are not native to Florida. They're native to like the Amazon. And so people put them there and set them free, but they can survive there, and they do a really good job of messing up the ecosystem because they're not supposed to be there. There's nothing that eats the boa constrictors, so they kind of are unchecked and they just do whatever they want. So you don't have to say, like, you don't have to give me a big story about it. You can just say, is it native? Another word for native is endemic, or introduced, and another name for that is invasive. So I just want you to know both of those words. Okay, and then include an interesting fact about your organism. So if you find something like you're reading and you think it's cool, then you need to include that information on your slide. Okay, put these pieces of information into your Google slide presentation linked under the project assignment. So let's go back over to that project assignment really quick. See, it tells you like there's a little space for each of these. So basically, you can just delete what I wrote and type right in there with your own information. This you will have to delete and put your picture of your organism that you took. One other thing I want you to know is that you, if you copy and paste into this document, like let's say you copy and paste the scientific name, you need to change it back to the font that you've chosen or it'll look really, really messy and gross. One other thing I would say is that instead of going to slide, new slide, this just gives you something that's blank, and then that means you have to reformat the whole entire thing. So my suggestion would be to instead right click on the slide and click duplicate, and then you can actually just do this 10 times. And then you can just type in where you want the species name and the pictures, and like you can just redo that so you don't have to reformat every page and make sure that the font's the same. If you just duplicate the slide, the font and everything is already the same. So that's one tip that I would give you. I'm going to show you mine really quick. So here's my title page. I'm going to go over the formatting in a second. But this is my picture that I took of the cactus wren in my backyard. I put the location and the time that I took it and the date. And then I also put the information that's required. So here is the scientific name. Here is what it eats. So in this one, I put a little extra information. I put secondary consumer, but I put insectivore because they basically only eat bugs. So they don't want to eat anything besides bugs, but they will also eat fruits of cactus. So I think that's where they get their name, of course, the cactus wren. These are endemic or native to this area. Here's where they live. This is where they evolved. They're perfectly fit for the Chihuahuan Desert. And then I also put that they don't have to eat any water. They don't have to drink water. They basically just get all the water they need from their food, which makes them perfectly fit for the desert. So that is my example slide to show you guys. I did change the formatting, but I want to tell you, only change the formatting from this once, like once you finish everything, for reals. Like, do not make that don't waste your time on that part because this is already formatted really well and you do not have to change it at all except for to change the information in it. You will not get extra points for changing it. I just changed mine because I'm an overachieving student. Like that's just my personality. I want it to look the way I want it to look. Okay, that is, I believe, all that you guys need for the third part of this project. So after you finish this, you can go ahead and get started on part number 4, and I'll see you in a little bit.